I'm gonna open the Dunbarton Board of Selectmen meeting for, November 21st. All three selectmen are present. The recording secretary is not present. She will make minutes from notes in the recording. The town administrator is present, recording for the town is Mr. Leo Martell. Members, okay, and I also see members of the cemetery committee here and the assessors, board of assessors.
Mary Lavelle, yeah.
Mary
and then
Lavelle and
Jeff Trexler is just
Jeff
stepped
Trexler,
away.
yeah, that's okay, so get that down, I just getting that for the table. We can get that. Okay, first item for old business, I have some minutes.
Motion to approve the November 14th, 2019 minutes as amended.
I'll second Bob's motion.
Any discussion on those, gentlemen? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Those were amended, just for the record.
Yeah, he did say.
Yeah, I
Okay.
see that.
I didn't quite catch that. Hearing.
Then we can start picking on them early.
Hey, I tell you. Dave, I know when it's 10 o'clock though.
You know, I've come look at that paper again, I never had a chance to before I left.
We have to have flexibility to work around it, that's all I have to say.
10-1, it's all in the. We all had to say, right?
Yeah, that's, but you gotta look at the positive side. Okay, we have a big crowd here tonight.
Oh, yeah, I'm impressed. More than we get.
They knew you were gonna be here, so.
They evacuated.
Okay, I'm gonna open up for public comment. I'll start in the back row. I'll start from this side. Anything for public comment, sir?
No.
Okay,
No.
no?
Almost, I think.
You're on the agenda, so I'll just close public comment, bring it back to the board. Mary?
We have a,
Well,
yes,
you're on.
okay, Mary Lavelle, Chairman of the Board of Assessors, and I'm here to present my budget, and it's pretty flat, as always. We're doing our 3% raises that we do every year. And for the, what the heck is it here? Appraisal services, we're asking for 2,000 less. And the utility appraiser, that's the same amount every year, due to our contract with them. And, let's see, it's gone up the, what is it, the computer support went up this year. From $58.40 to $64.96.
And I understand that's mostly software,
That's the support for the software.
support for the software.
Yes, that's not the software itself.
Okay,
So anyway, the rest of it is pretty much level. And then we have 2 warrants to deal with.
okay, it's in the bottom corner, gentlemen. You should do it.
Right here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, I see it.
We need to take some money out of the capital reserve for the reval.
And how much is in there, do you know?
Hold on a second.
The packet of
Do you have
bids
any?
is right there. I think it was 82,000 we have in the,
82
yeah, we have it, I think I put a statement in there. It's a little over 82,000 right now. We're just reading a report.
What's that like?
Something outside.
Plow truck.
The diesel.
I know.
Okay,
Ready for the winter.
Leo, don't you get me in trouble.
I don't know that I left it in there and I don't have my copy with me, but
Okay.
I can assure you that it's about 82,000 and change.
okay.
So they're both withdrawals, oh no, there's a
One's a-
deposit. And then there's withdrawal.
14,000.
Yeah, every year we do a deposit into the capital reserve, so that kind of softens the blow when we have to go through a reval. We've been fortunate that the last 2 revals that we've had statistical revals. I met with the board on Tuesday night and I also inquired with the DRA and he said that if we comply with the full statistical reval, we will be in compliance with the RSA. So we decided that that's what we would do for bids. We did send out bids, we received 4 of them. Of the 4, we currently have MRI for our pickups, and that's the reason for the decrease on the budget, is because we feel that there'll be some duplicating of services through the reval. They've been really good with the town as far as not overbilling us. I think that after we discussed it, we felt that 8,000 would be a fair amount to reduce the annual pickup, which is completely separate from the statistical. Statistical is based on sales. One of the things they have to do for that, it's basically we're currently at like 81%, and we need to
What,
bring
our
that.
equalization rate?
Equalization.
75%, I believe it is.
Oh, is it that low,
Yes.
75? So we're down, we're supposed to be at 100%. So that's what the statistical will do, is they'll evaluate sales.
Yeah.
How much is a
Sales
full
the past year.
evaluation normally?
A full one would be almost 100,000 or more,
Yeah,
and
I
that's,
think was about 100 last time we did it, or 100.
no, it was actually probably 46 or 49,
Oh, boy, I haven't been here, I went.
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Are you talking the statistical or the
No, no,
reval?
Full
Full
re-
reval.
Full reval was over 100 or close to when we
That's what
first
I
did
thought
it.
it was,
Yes, yep.
And
So-
so we're paying
Probably a lot more now.
a little less than a third of that too.
For a statistical evaluation,
Correct,
okay?
yeah,
And how many years does that have to happen, every year?
every 5 years. So we
For
did our last
statistical?
one in 2015, so now we're scheduled for 2020.
Hence, that's why the capital reserve is so high, because
Yes.
every year you have to put,
Right.
okay,
So
And-
how long before you do the full reeval again?
1 year.
Well, see, and
That's the tricky one.
well, I think the communities fought the DRA, because the DRA was trying to say you must do a full
Full measure
revamp.
list.
But for a lot of the communities that are smaller, it was a big burden for them to come up with 100 grand to do a do a
So-
full reval, so they kind of backed
So
down.
You guys missed, when do we have to do that?
I don't know that they'll be able to enforce the towns, I think if they do, they're going to audit us. They're gonna audit our statistical, and they may at some point in the future
So the
meet
last
with,
time we did it was 5 years ago.
that was statistical, the
We
last,
haven't done a full measure list in ages.
no, it was probably 2010,
A full?
yep.
I'm
'Cause-
just trying to figure out, because we're spending a third of it to do a statistical one.
Yep.
And so I'm trying to figure out when we need to do the next full.
That's what I'm,
Yeah.
that's
The
what I'm
next
asking.
full, I don't know. Depends upon what the
There's no
state
way we can get that
requires.
answer.
The RSA says that they recommend a full reval, but the towns can
Recommend it how many years?
every 5 years. That's what they recommend by the RSA. But they also have backed down in saying that if you can meet the criteria that we need to bring you up to 100%, then we would allow, and you will comply with the RSA to go through a
And so we
statistical.
were at 75, and that's too low, we gotta bring it up to,
That means your value's gone up 25% since the last time.
okay.
That's what that means.
Nobody's cutting me a check.
Sell your house, you see.
So I think we've kind of kept with the deposit of 14 grand to cover the cost of the utility appraisal. His reval cost is 20,000. This regular residential reval is 30, what is that, 27 on that bid?
29.
29. So we're actually looking close to 50,000 that we'll be withdrawing from the capital reserve to cover utilities and residential updates.
Utilities were 10,
That's just the regular
And
annual,
Yearly.
annual pickups. This,
appraisal services was 8.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
those are regular annual
Right.
pickups. Part of the budget.
So 18 and 30. 30, 40,
48.
almost 50, yeah. And
Okay,
you said our balance is about 82,
82
and that's before this 14.
correct, and then, but we'll be withdrawing about 50,000
so we'll be left about 50 in
Yeah,
there.
just shy of 50 left.
after
No,
the
30
deposit.
Something.
Correct, but
When
if we
you put
deposit,
14 in.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what
it'll
I'm
put us
saying,
back at 50.
yeah, approximate, okay.
I'm just trying to see what we're left in there in case the state comes back on us on a full reevaluation.
I don't think they will,
I doubt it.
because there's 2 RSAs. I can get the copy for you if you're interested in reading it, and it does say that if we meet all the different criterias in our statistical, they will audit that, and,
Then we're good.
yeah.
Okay. All right, next one, you got legal now. Legal is, and it's bumped up a little bit, and that was mainly due to the utilities, correct?
Yes.
And the thing is, the only risk I have, you had 12, so we overspent it by about almost 3.
Right, but I actually have one that we'll be paying next week that's almost $2,000
So it'd be almost 5, then we're up to.
over, yeah.
But the question, will it come to a conclusion this coming calendar year? That's the question we have.
Where's the legal unrequested? I don't see any.
It is not, I left it blank, it's got the question marks there, so do we want to leave it at 15? We're hoping that we're gonna come to an end with this legal,
Yeah,
But the thing
utility.
is, it's not to the end, and so I think we have to at least anticipate that we may be having a few more battles before we're around.
So with legal, did you go over your budget?
Yeah,
Significantly, it was already
yeah,
a day.
see that,
Well,
it was
we went
budgeted
15.
12.
Well, I see that, but I'm looking for the total of the.
That is the total actual, and I was just saying that I have one bill that I'll be paying next Monday that's for over 2,000 for the Board of Assessors legal.
Just to leave, this is just this line.
I know. I was looking for the whole department though.
Oh, no, it's a
It's
separate.
separate.
Oh, for all the different groups, like the Board of Assessors and the zoning and,
No, all of these right here that are on this page, that she's coming to for our budget, I was wondering if she was over her total budget or under it.
she's over by 3,000 by this report. This column 8 is
Just on
actual,
legal.
just on Board of Assessors legal. She usually gives her input to what would be recommended to put in there for a budget, where we're overspent substantially because of the
Utility.
utility appeals.
I'd like to leave it at, maybe make it at 15, I think 12 may be too low, because it's not completed yet, and I don't wanna under budget for
Yeah.
this year. I'd like to propose 15, gentlemen, we can always, this is preliminary, we can discuss it later.
I think it's right too, because if you look, what I'm trying to get at, is she's under, out of 28,000 that she had budgeted, she spent 21 this year. Above.
That's a different category.
I know it's a
No, no,
good
yeah, I agree.
category,
Yeah,
but it's in her section.
it's
This
actually
legal is for her as well.
correct, but it's in the selectmen's group
Right.
accounts. So I just wanted to make sure it gets brought up so that they know and they agree with what you're budgeting for their legal defense.
I think we should leave it at 15 too.
The thing is, I can't see it going down if it's not solved yet.
It won't go down, I don't think, for another year at least.
Well, we can revisit that, I'm gonna put a pencil in 15 for now.
I did mine in pen already.
Already got it in there, that's what I figured.
Gentlemen, you have to get another, an ink eraser.
We all got it in pen now, like it's done.
Okay,
not me, I'm still a pencil.
thank you. All right,
Phrases use pencils.
And then
any last, go ahead, last
Yeah.
comments on this?
the one last item is, we've been discussing the issues with,
The software.
the software not being supported. This is one of those where Vision 6.5, which is the version that we have, is going to be at the end of its life, December 31st. It's highly recommended by Department of Revenue, by the assessor, that we upgrade our software to the more current software so that when we enter in the new statistical reval information, we will not lose data, we won't, anything that gets corrected will get corrected once. Because if, God forbid, they enter all that sale data and then somehow we miss something when we update it, we could have to hire them to re-enter that
I see
information.
that, so you're adding the 650.
So my question, our question to you is, currently, right now, they have approximately, how much was that on that sheet, Mary?
I just want, there's 10,000 for the upgrade.
The upgrade is $10,000.
And in our balance, we only have a balance of 4166.72 in our pipeline.
Right.
Where's
So,
that written down anywhere?
it's not. It's, if you look at the line that says appraisal services, there's 5,500 that's actual, so that leaves about 44
44,
remaining in
got
that
it.
line. The
Mhm.
two top lines are gonna be spent in a week or two, that's the payroll. So the only item that's really outstanding and remaining is, about $5,000, just over. And what, we would like to discuss with you is they can use and apply 4,166 after I pay the $300 bill pending towards this $10,000 software upgrade, but there still leaves $5,000 that, or $5,500, which they will need to complete the, transition for the software upgrade.
Which can be done with dollars this year or dollars next year, that's the
Correct,
question.
so if you have, if they apply the 4166 to the 10,000, they'll be overspending slightly to get
5,833.28.
Yeah,
Yeah.
did I give you the contract? Not that
Yes,
one.
you did.
Right here.
I think it's on the bottom here.
Here's the contract. They have an opening in December. They want 5,000 up front and 5,000 after it's completed.
Be completed.
And that would
Is
be
it December 29th on that?
26 to 20.
Yeah, it is December this year.
Starting December 12th.
And they're flexible depending on whether the town has the budget. So I can let them know that we only have $4,500, we'll pay the remainder in New Year. Or where if you want level services or a flat budget, it's up to the board.
This
Or-
is software maintenance, correct?
Software maintenance, yeah,
This is an upgrade.
Right,
yeah, we have to do that,
Just the software maintenance is 10,000.
yeah.
And then 6 for, to keep it up and running.
Yeah, the annual is here, which is $64.96.
That's just for support.
That's for support, and then to bring it up to another newer version, it's $10,000.
in the wrong business, aren't you? So, I guess the question before the board is, do we wanna, pay for it with current, this year calendar dollars from our current budget? Call it maintenance for software, or we wanna split it, say pay half of it now and half of it due upon installation? That would be next year, we get the bill.
We'd have to increase this budget 5,000.
Right,
So rather than seeing it decrease by 1265, we'd see it go up.
but, 3,200,
Yeah, 35.
38.
Unless we use our maintenance funds.
That's what I'm saying, we got enough in the, I mean, we still have enough to do the, I wanna commit the gentleman coming up next is gonna help us commit some money for the
Right.
roof
We're
repair.
not gonna get near what's in there.
No, I think we have enough I think we can afford it. I'd rather get it done this year rather than tax rate.
Well, it's gonna be a win-win where we won't be paying more to have the assessor
We do it.
re-enter numbers that could be lost during the transition.
Right, because it'll be numbers for this coming, calendar year.
Yeah, so the new eval will go into the new system.
Right.
That's kind of the cleanest way to do it.
I'd like to pay for it with our maintenance fund this year and make it clean.
We have the funds to do it, I think we should too.
So I can encumber it,
So, I
even-
think so.
we sign a
Rather than
contract.
carry it over and,
And it'd be a clean install, less app for errors and loss of data.
you know, you're gonna have enough other areas that you're gonna be looking at where there's gonna be increases that
Yeah.
when you have the money, you want us to get it out of the way.
Okay.
This is my year, we have to have a flat year, remember?
All right. We have consensus, I think we're gonna go ahead and expend the dollars this year, we'll expend this on this contract to get the, expended before end of this year. We'll sign this contract, installation December 12th, starting, finishing around December 26th. And we'll be starting the calendar year off with a new software program.
Excellent.
So that being said, then their budget for 2020 will go down 1,265. That's what they'll present for the
Yes.
next year.
Okay,
Okay,
along with the, you gotta help me speak to your warrants when they come to the town meeting.
They say the same thing every year.
Mike, do you wanna make a motion to encumber the rest of the money out of our
oh,
maintenance fund?
that's good.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to,
When we do the math real quick, just so we
Yeah.
have it correct.
Well, I think it would be up to $10,000, only, I'm just saying,
We have 41 here, you said?
correct. I think it's around 41 and change,
I
so,
was after $6,000.
Yes.
yeah, that would definitely cover
All
it,
right.
6,000.
I'd like to make a motion, to fund the Old Vision upgrade to our assessing software in the amount of, to be funded with our maintenance fund, up to $6,000. The remaining money to be funded within the budget from the, appraisal services. I need a second on that.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on this?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're gonna be in the funding can get the wording down up to $6,000.
Yep.
And I'll cover it.
Yeah,
And
that makes
it'll
sense.
make, I think, start the year off cleaner.
Yes, it is.
And it'll risk of losing any data as we go forward,
Do you have some of those
I'll have
fence
her sign,
radius?
she's a cheater.
please.
One broken out.
And this one doesn't require us, this,
No, that was just an FYI, they did a good job, we got 4 bids on the reval, and, they're fairly
thank you
close.
for the work you did on that, thank you.
No problem. Lean was a great help as always.
So I'm gonna be going into software business next year, and I'll be selling tax software. Figure 100 municipalities, at least 100 municipalities. They do pretty good.
Well, there was one here that was, just shy of the awarded bid, but they didn't have a lot of years of experience, and we didn't wanna have to bump up our budget to oversee somebody that was doing statistical and
Oh,
not have the
absolutely.
experience.
It's called-
I'll fill it out.
We don't need upstarts.
I don't know about the buying hits.
I'll fill it out and I'll
Thank
scan
you.
it to them and we'll take care of you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mary.
I said thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. You were first in the barrel this year, you got to have us first.
Lucky me.
Have a nice holiday.
Have a, yes, I was
You
saying,
too,
have a
everybody.
Thanksgiving.
Take care.
Enjoy.
Thank you,
Jeff's
Mary.
up.
Thanks for coming by.
Hey, Jeff, were you successful last week?
Not yet.
Okay.
Season ain't over yet. Okay. Drawings are 98% complete.
This is for the bid, I understand.
Yeah, I need to do a check set, so I go through and I check every line, every note, everything on before we send it out for construction. I haven't done that yet. And you may wanna make a few minor adjustments this evening, depending on our discussion.
You didn't get to my font, huh? You didn't get to my font, did you?
So thes'll read much easier when they're printed on the 24 by 36. I don't have access to that plotter, and I didn't have time to run into Staples.
Oh, we have
Well,
a
we have
plotter
a
here.
plotter here, if you, it's eligible.
Okay, so I'll be emailing PDFs. and
Okay,
then
that's
we can
fine.
print them
Okay.
and so.
Can I ask you a question real quick? The RFP that I sent you, is that a template that we could work with, do
I
you
haven't had a
think?
chance to look at it.
Okay, that's fine.
That's on my, I wanna make sure that we have a complete package, that whatever your RFP says, that we're providing documents that support it.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so, there's 3 sheets here. The first sheet is a couple plan views. Second sheet is a couple of building sections, and I managed to slide my general notes and specs onto that sheet. And the third sheet is a bunch of details. And, I wanna go through on the first sheet, it's sort of a list of the work that needs to be done right here under the plan notes. And each one of those, numbers in the circle is pointing to something on the plan. So I'll walk you through what we have right now. And I don't know how deep you wanna get into this, but I'll go over what the project consists of. So the first item is, we're gonna put some diagonal ties in the corners, and that will take care of that problem with the hip. We can take the posts out, the hip no longer has to be a beam, it's just a sloping ridge, but the rafters are pushing out on the sides. By tying those corners together with just some 2x6s, and you see it'll lay right between the existing rafters on top of the plate, and just lumber and nails, and it's
Cause
done.
that's up about this high, right,
Right.
that plate, 30 inches or so.
Yep.
So that post can come right out of there, no notches in the hip,
Correct.
perfect.
Yep, we just, and one of my items in here, on Plan B, the timber framing plan, I do note in the 3 corners, item 13, to just take the posts and those beams out.
Got it.
And that's these guys here.
Gotcha.
Perfect, these guys in the corner, so. And then item 2 is the same thing up on the upper purlins, in the center section, we're gonna put some diagonals in, and that will tie the hip ends together with the sides in those corner zones. Moving back down a little bit, we, to the lower ones, between line 1 and line 2, where our access hatch occurs over in this corner, I couldn't put one where we typically have them on the other corners, because it goes right across the hatch.
So you separated the
I
road distance.
pushed them apart, and they'll fit in there. I've gone up in there and sighted it through, and they'll lay in there, and with minimal impact on getting up and into that access area. So that's items 1 and 2. Item 3 is we're gonna put some new 2x4 ties across in this center zone, right from about, line 5 down to line 3. And that's where we're actually just tying those rafters together, straight across, sitting on top of those upper purlins. And we just come in with some 10-foot stock, butt them together and scab a 2x4, a 2-foot long piece of 2x4 across them at the butt splice and
What
center.
are they, about 16 footers, Jeff?
No, 10s.
Oh, that's only 10.
So it'll be 10 and 10, and they'll butt in the center.
Oh, so you don't have to bring 20 footers up there, you just open
That was
one.
the whole idea, is to try to make it
Sure.
manageable. Yeah. And the building section on page 2.
And those are up right this way, Jeff?
Yes, that shows those guys right up here.
But it'll get right here.
Yeah, that's them sitting up there. They'll sit on the existing 6x6, the tie, the new one that was installed, so they'll sit right on top of that. We'll toenail them in, but it's just it's a standard ceiling tie condition up there. So that's item 3, and that then now we've taken care of all of our horizontal thrust on all of our rafters throughout the entire roof. We no longer have to worry about things.
First, going out, push down, yeah.
And the nailing detail, I imagine, is on your smaller cross
It
sections.
is, yeah, it's on the details, yeah. Fairly simple construction, it's some lumber and some nail, and a nail gun and some guys, and it's pretty cheap.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 on that page.
Yep, so item number 4 is on Plan B, on the timber framing plan. And what they did, Joel Fisher had specified that we reinforce this purlin here for those 2 spans with a new LVL. Because that was where we were gonna put snow guards to protect the fire stair from snow sliding on. And by putting snow guards, we no longer have an unobstructed eave, so we're holding snow on the roof. The purlin was undersized, and he had specified a 14-inch LVL to be nailed on the inside face of that purlin. He noted on his drawings that that can go up in 2 pieces. In other words, it doesn't have to be a continuous two-span member. Well, what the framer did was, 2 pieces, he took the 14-inch and he ripped it down the center, so you got a couple of 7-inch pieces up there.
Oh my gosh.
So that's not gonna work. So note number 4 is to remove that 7-inch piece and put the 14-inch piece up there. My question tonight is, where did I do the pile? Here it is. Right now, we have a snow guard only over the door, which is about here, I think.
My thought, Jeff, is we should do that entire side.
That was my question, and
Because
that's my
we-
recommendation.
We can do an addition on the building.
Right, we don't know what the
Yep.
final addition's gonna be, agreed.
Yep, and so, yeah, and if we didn't wanna do the whole side, I was gonna recommend that where we take these 7-inch ones off, we put them over here, because this particular purlin on the far end between lines 5 and 6 has got a twist in the grain. When you look at the checks up there and underneath it, the checks are running diagonally across the bottom of the member, heading for the corner, and that's a very weak timber,
Okay.
the way it dried and the twist in the grain there. So putting, I think, the 14-inch LVL all the way down is my recommendation.
And you have the height to do that?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, these are way up, they're 10 feet up, so, that's not a problem.
But that's gotta be a complete 14-foot.
It's
gonna
gotta be a
2 feet.
full 14-inch, but they can go up in individual 12-foot pieces.
Gotcha, okay.
They don't have to be continuous over multiple spans.
Okay, great, that make it easy for getting up there.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
Okay,
that's really 4 and 5 now.
that's 4 and 5, correct. So 5, I'll make the change, 5 will actually go away, and that will just become number 4.
I think that will help it won't restrict the renovations, since they may progress or may not progress, but
Yep.
we'll give the options of.
Right. Number 6, okay, so the center 6x6, all these 6x6 braces, if you look at Plan View B, the timber framing plan, they put timbers running down the center on top of down the middle of the trusses, and then they put these diagonal braces in a different plane than what Joel Fisher had specified, but they're okay the way they're installed. However, with this member down the middle, they put a butt splice over each truss. Joel Fisher had called for a lap splice where they would go over top of each other and then screw down through into the timber, and that way you get both tension and you're connecting the truss to it. They just have a butt splice. They've got some toe screws in there, the 8-inch timber lock toe screws, kind of haphazardly. I want to maintain tension all the way down through that, so we're going to scab a 2x6 each side at each of those butt splices, and it's just a nailed connection. 2-foot long piece of 2x6 both sides with a bunch of nails in there.
So just in summary, they kinda like put supports up there contrary to the plan.
Oh yeah, a lot of stuff was not done according to the drawings.
Yeah, the 4x4s in the corner.
Yeah, I've found a lot of stuff
Okay.
that just, in fact, there's not much that did match the drawings.
Okay. Now, rhetorical question,
Yeah.
just a question. Could we rely on you to do a final inspection?
Oh, absolutely.
Before we do the paycheck?
Yeah.
Because I don't wanna have to pay for something and, we don't have engineers, and then if we didn't do it, we'd have to probably get someone to come in and do an inspection up there.
Yeah, no, I'll take care of that. In fact, my general notes call for me to come in and inspect the timber column and the bottom of the trusses before they install those brackets.
Okay.
Because we may have to do some fussing with the lumber in there to make that happen. My drawings, it's great to draw these drawings with these wonderful straight lines and these nice 90-degree angles. But when we get up there, that truss has probably got a sag in it. And if we put a 90-degree bracket in there, that means we're not getting full contact on the bottom of that truss. So we may have to do a little planing of the lumber so we get full
Okay,
contact.
okay.
The lumber could have a twist in it, which means, there's a lot of stuff like that. I want to look at each of them and talk to them about how we get better.
You've reassured me already.
Yeah, it's all in there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that is number 6 about the splices. Number 7, connect existing 6x6 brace to the purlins. Okay, they were supposed to, at the end of this center guy here, they were supposed to anchor it to these end purlins, and they didn't. You can see there's a gap there. It's 3 inches at one end and
Yeah,
about
so
6
there's no
inches at the other
strength
end.
there.
Lots of air. And that was supposed to be a connection. So those end purlins, if you've been up there, and if you recall, and actually if you look at the second sheet here, you can see it. There is the new 6x6 diagonal strut that supports that end purlin. And it's on a slope so that it can grab the purlin but get over to the bottom core of the truss. Anytime you have a member compression that's on a slope, you end up with a horizontal component plus a vertical component. So what's keeping that purlin from sort of leaning outwards, along with the rafters pulling it outwards? Nothing. We were supposed to have a tension connection to that center member. So we're putting in a tension member, and it's a couple of Simpson's
Almost like a hold down, Jeff, where you
it's a
just
hold down,
throw
right?
them in.
It's a DTT's 2Z, it's a simple ones,
Yep.
and a couple of rods, and we bore them through the purlin, and my details will show that when we get there. So we're gonna create a tension connection to tie those
Okay.
purlins into that center 6x6 horizontal brace. That was number 7. Number 8 is to add our steel brackets underneath, similar to what we talked about last time I was here. And we'll have a tension connection, I'm gonna go over that in a minute. Number 9 is at the chimneys, we have a different tension connection because the chimneys are getting in the way, and I'll go over those details in a minute. Number 10, at each of the lapped corners of those upper purlins, these outboard corners out here, 4 corners, the existing 8x8s are lapped over each other. Half of them cut away in each. And so the end purlin is sort of leaning on the bottom half of the side purlin. And that's a very weak connection. Your timber wants to split in horizontal shear. So we're putting 3 screws, 8-inch timber lock screws, just off the center of that connection to hold that side member together. That was on Joel's drawings, and I agree we should be doing it, and it wasn't done. And I've
Yeah,
got
those timber locks are unbelievable, aren't they?
just, you know, you get a drill driver and you're done, you know, they go fast. So that's number 10. Number 11 is this top cord right here, sloping top cord that follows the roof plane, has got a very large split. Actually, it's not a split, it's a check. The split goes all the way through the member. The check goes from the face of the member to the center of the tree. What used to be the center of the tree, doesn't go all the way through. But there's a large check that runs right down the inside bottom face.
Or just
of it.
that particular one?
Yeah, just that one. And we've got some bolts that go through that checked area where the members come apart a little bit. I wanna stitch it together with some screws to hold it together. And again, those are just timber locks. We'll screw it in from each side at 12 inches on center. And that'll take care of it. And again, that was on Joel's drawings as well. Joel Fisher.
It was? Yeah.
So that's the stitch. Number 12, where the ceiling framing is parallel to the side walls of the building, line A, line D. That first ceiling joist is not well anchored to the wall. And it really needs to be, because you need to anchor your wall to your ceiling framing so it can act like a big diaphragm, like a big flat plate in taking horizontal loads and distributing them around the building. So we're gonna go along and we're just gonna nail that to each stud. Bang, 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 building all done as they walk along. So that's number 12. Number 13, we're removing those posts in the corner that we talked about.
The old ones.
Yep, the old ones, we'll knock them right out. Number 14 is, okay. We do have two stud walls. I'm gonna go for another color here. We'll go blue. There is a stud wall right here that separates the stair and the ante rooms from the hall. There's also a stud wall that's just off the truss at the stage. So this one is not under the truss, it's right beside it.
Okay.
This one is underneath the truss. To get these new brackets in underneath, they have to do more than just taking some of the plaster off the wall. Now they've got to mess with some wall framing, and so the intent of note 14 is to alert the contractor that you're gonna have to remove some, perhaps a little wall framing, finishes on both sides, and we have to reframe and cut and patch and that kind of thing. I wanna make sure we encompass all the work and not give the contractor
Whole-
reason to
holes in the
say, oh, I'm gonna charge you extra because you didn't tell me I needed to do this.
Jeff, did the wall take care of the loading in those locations or not?
That's a good question. The second floor framing, the joists are running parallel to that wall. And we have girders on the B line and C line, timber girders. I don't know what's underneath those walls for a beam, if anything. I do out over by the stage, and I don't recall what it is, but I have details on that.
So there may not.
I think it's like a 6 by 12 underneath there. But that wall at the stage is right here, and the truss is right there. I mean, it's right next to it, so the truss doesn't bear on the wall.
So you can get to that one.
Yes, but we still have to, because the chimney's on the other side, and part of it, we have to come in from
From
one
the
side.
wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
I don't care either way, I was just asking if it,
Well, you know, it brings up a good point, and on my list of things that I'm not addressing in this project is what do we do with the entry and the beam that's underneath this sidewall over those entry areas that project out? To the best of my knowledge and poking around, I think it's only a 6 by 12 timber in the same plane as the 12-inch floor joist that goes over that span. And yet this column from that truss lands right on that beam over the opening. And this, I'm not showing it, but it's, you know, those openings are like this.
right, and they had looked at that in the past, right, Jeff, and saw
Yeah.
no sagging.
Yeah, I looked at it as well and said, geez, all the numbers I run say that's really well overstressed, we ought to do something. Joel Fisher had specified some steel, you know, on the side of that, but that would mean taking down the metal ceiling in those two areas. I'm not recommending we address that at this time. because we don't really know enough. We may have, over on this side, we may have because that wall is directly underneath that truss, we may have enough support in that wall coming down onto, there's a post right there in the library, and right there in the library, excuse me, I'm in the wrong spot, over here and over here, down in the library. So we may be taking some of this truss load and actually bringing it down through that wall onto the second floor framing and through those columns down to Mother Earth. We may have a lot less load going on out at that support
On
than
those
we
locations,
think.
As long as we don't take those posts out in the library,
Yes.
they're structural, do not remove.
So that one I'm feeling comfortable. The one at the stage, because the wall's not directly under the truss, I'm not so sure we're getting some additional support there somehow, but let's leave that until we know more in the future if we do any kind of major renovations. I don't wanna get into tearing down metal ceilings and addressing something that seems to be working okay right now. Okay, so that was number 14, about alerting the contractor. Number 15 is we
Just
are.
before you go too far.
Sure.
On both ends of that ceiling of the second floor, there are metal roofs.
Over the anteroom and the stair and over the stage.
I know the one on the stage is fairly rough anyway, so I'm not too worried about that one, but the one on the entryway, if we could access that wall from the center of the room so that they're not affecting the steel roof.
And that one I think they can.
Okay. Just so, we wanna make sure that they try and keep that section of metal roof, because you're gonna come up
Yeah.
the stairs as good as possible.
Yeah, that's a good point. That room's locked up, I guess it's a storage room, we've got records or something in
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
Yeah.
The face of stud, here's your 8x8 bottom core of your truss. Your stud is 1 inch in, it's a
Each
4-inch
side.
stud. And you've got about 3/4 inch of plaster, and then here's your let's see, your ceiling joist coming here, and here's your metal ceiling doing its thing. And we're gonna come in and
Until you bracket there.
yeah, I'm hoping we can avoid that, but I'm not sure yet,
Okay.
just because of how it's all.
Well, I'm sure you'll work through it anyway, I
Yeah.
just figured I'd throw that out there. The stage one has multiple holes, as I remember in it, so
Yeah.
it's not nearly as in.
And I would think that if we ever do go in to put a new metal ceiling in here, we'll replace those metal ceilings at that time anyways.
Yeah, most likely.
So, okay, I'll keep that in mind, that let's minimize any damage over there if we can. Certainly, over at the chimney, we're coming in from one side only, you know, and we don't have to worry about there. It's only that one spot at A6 that we have to worry about. Okay, 15, we're adding some more timber lock screws to anchor the truss top cord to that horizontal 6x6 brace. I was over there later, or this afternoon, and looking at how frequently they fasten that together, and it's not that frequent, so I'll put another note in to add some more, so that's mine. All right, so that's sort of the list of the work, and then the rest of it is explaining it in detail form and showing, you know, where some of these details occur, and then of course the general notes and specifications. So I'm gonna go right to page 3, the detail page. Detail number 1, this is at the center of the truss where that horizontal 6x6 tie is, and we've got the top cord of the truss here, and we've got the sloping webs here, the truss, and there's that existing tie, and I'm showing the 2x6s that get scabbed over those butt splices. I'm showing where the 2x4 rafter ties get lapped and spliced in there. So that's just a simple nail it all up connection for that detail. Detail 2 is where the LVL occurs, just calling for how that gets nailed to the purlin, and also calling for how that rafter tie gets lapped and nailed to each rafter. Detail 3 is at the end of that horizontal 6x6 tie where it doesn't extend to the purlin, and we don't have that tension connection.
Right, that's the slant.
Yep, we're putting those two, those are light gauge metal brackets, they get screwed into the side of the tie. It's a 1/2 inch threaded rod that we go through, we'll bore through the purlin and put a bearing plate, it looks like a little plate washer, and a nut on the back side, and that'll provide our tension tie for that connection.
And they're just snugging them.
Correct, you don't crank on those, you don't try to pull things together, you just bring it up snug. If you start to crank
We
on it,
need to
you
make
can.
sure they don't touch the beams.
Yeah. Well, you'll split the wood at the fasteners,
Yeah.
that's the problem. I'm also showing at this detail those two additional screws, toe screws, right there in the yellow, where we connect the top cord up to the tie in our note number 15. Okay. Detail 4, that's where the purlins lap in the corner, and they're cut, one's, half of the bottom one's cut, and half of the top one's cut, and they lap. And so we're just driving some screws in to keep that thing from splitting apart from that downward load from the end purlin onto the
Oh, I
side.
see, you're not even going into the lap.
No, not in the lap. The whole idea is to prevent a split from happening
Yep.
right there.
Okay.
Right where that lap is, because you get as you push down,
Yeah.
you'll get a horizontal shear split happening right there, and so those screws will resist that. Okay, that's detail 4. All right, and then the real gutsy one, 5 and 7. I'm gonna go over to 6 first. 6 is just the stitching of that one checked sloping top cord and how we
Actually
run
learned something.
fasteners and
Actually
these
learned something nice.
Yeah. They're gonna stitch it. So detail 5, you look on the left side, and that's a view of the column and the bottom cord of the truss coming over to the column. And we have our 6x6 plate, and this is kind of the typical detail, this is not a chimney detail, this is a typical detail. So we've got our 6x6 up here, we've got our bottom, our sloping top cord comes down, and our bottom cord comes across, and our column is in here in the wall, and it goes all the way up.
This is 6 feet here, so.
What I found as I was over doing some more pictures and more exploration in there is that we have in at least half of the conditions where the bottom cord meets the column, there's a mortise cut into the column to provide a shoulder to set that bottom cord on. Because remember, we've got all that vertical load that we're trying to transfer from the bottom cord into the column. And the existing connection is, there's about a 3/4 inch shoulder cut in the column that the bottom cord is supposed to go in and bear on. And then the bottom cord also has a tenon that goes into a mortise into the column with a hardwood dowel.
This is where you told me we could shear off possibly.
No, this is the column.
Okay,
This is the column, and this is the bottom cord coming in.
okay.
So what I'm finding is we've got a gap of up to a half an inch from the end of the bottom cord and the inside face of the mortise in the column. That bottom cord used to be right up against that lumber.
Okay.
This is only about 3/4 of an inch. You can see on this side of the tape that the edge of the lumber is, the back of my tape is right up against that mortise. It's about a 3/4 inch mortise in the face of the column that bottom cord is supposed to rest on, but it shrunk at least a half an inch, so we're only sitting a 1/4 of an inch on that shoulder. And I found that in at least 5 locations. Some of the others, it's less than half an inch, but at least 5 of them are a good half an inch. And so if you think about the detail, looking down on that 6x10 column, timber column, here comes that 8x8 bottom cord, and there's supposed to be a notch here, or there is a notch in the column.
Holes in place, yeah.
Right. And then there's also a tenon that comes through as part of the bottom cord. So the bottom cord is actually cut like this. And then there's a trennel, hardwood pin that goes through, connecting those together. Now, if this bottom cord is separated a half an inch, what do you think has happened to that?
And it could be broken.
Could be broken, it's probably not, I've seen them where they just bend.
That was just sloppy when they built it.
Yeah, well, I don't think so. I actually measured column to column, the whole building's at least a half an inch wider at each of these locations, so it's done this, yeah. We may also have busted off the outside edge of that tenon of the bottom core, that could have fractured away. So anyways, putting our bracket underneath is gonna take care of the vertical load, but I'm concerned that we're losing this tension connection between these two pieces. Very important tension connection. I can't get my bracket to also be the tension connection and the vertical connection. If I did, that horizontal piece of that bracket would have to go way out, have to have a lot more fasteners on the bottom. But I've got a bolt here that comes down through that projects below, this bolt that connects, projects below, it would get in the way, and it would create too rigid a connection there. So, we're gonna go with the brackets like I talked about last time to carry the vertical load. And then I'm adding some tension members in here. Again, hold down brackets, standard light gauge metal brackets that get screwed into the side of the bottom cord with a rod that actually passes by the column.
And that column's inside the building, so you have that room.
You gotta, your soffit's way down
Yes.
here.
Right.
Is
So
that
that's why you can do it, normally you wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to do that.
Right, you can't poke through because
Right.
you're outside.
Right.
You're putting the nut on the outside of the building.
Yeah, we're up in the soffit, so it'll all be hidden. I do need to have a steel angle instead of just washers. There's two brackets, one on each side. And behind the column, I need a piece of steel angle so that if my tension isn't equalized on both those rods, when one starts to pull, it's gonna pull on the other because I got a rigid piece behind. So it's just a short piece of 3" by 2" 1/4" angle with a couple of slotted holes in it. That's angle A1. That's what that
Right
detail-
here.
Yep, and there's the detail for angle A1.
Okay.
And then I've got all the detail information for the bracket. I call it a bearing bracket, BB1, that goes underneath. Everything specified, the welds and so forth, for the plates and sizes and everything else. So there's the steel.
We can afford the little seal.
Little steel is okay. We have detail C here, which is cut through the bracket,
Okay.
and looking at the face of the column, and then detail D is cut out here through those two, those two guys there. One of the only challenges they're gonna have is when they locate those brackets, because the brackets occur between these two joists, I can't put it here because
Drill
there's
holes
too
in-
much stuff going on already.
Drill through the joist?
Yeah. I want them here, but they have to bore through that joist, and right now there's some nice 20-penny toe spikes that attach to those joists, and you've gotta make sure they find a spot where those spikes are in order to bore through. This one here doesn't matter because that one's gonna get nailed to every stud anyways.
Okay.
So, that's the solution at 8 of our 10 columns.
Where it's like this.
Correct, well, at all of them,
Okay.
but it also deals with, we're not gonna close this up, not gonna try to pull this together, but I don't want it to fall apart anymore.
Gotcha.
And you're putting the threaded nut in there, Jeff, just so it's a little easier for them to get through.
They can put it in two pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no way you're gonna get a 3-foot-long rod and try to get it down and in and through.
Try and get it through the joist.
You put it in two short pieces with a coupler nut and you couple them together.
I see a couple of them right there.
Yep. Okay, so that's 80%. The other 20% are the two conditions at the chimneys. And that's the next detail down, detail 7. So, with detail 7, because I've got a chimney a 1/2 inch away from that bottom cord, I can't put these two brackets on both sides of the bottom cord, or we'll be trying to bore through brick to get those rods in. So instead, we're gonna put a piece of steel up on top. I don't like doing it, but it's really the only practical solution here. And it's a piece of 6-inch channel, and quite frankly, they can take one of the 6-inch channels that are sitting up there and cut it and use it if they want. But it's gonna get fastened down to the top of the bottom cord. It's gonna have, this is I call it a tension bracket, TB1. It's got a plate on the end of it with a couple of holes. And so these are all the screws that get in and there's the plate, and then the rods will come off of that plate. So these are the rods here, this is the piece of channel. And because that's sitting on the top cord, I can put those rods where they just pass by this 6-inch wide sloping top cord. So there's the view, it'll just
Is that a single
run-
rod or double rod?
Double rod.
double rod, and it'll just pass through that gap. I've got about 1.5 inches between this sloping top cord and the face of the chimney, and that rod will go right through there.
Single rod or double rod?
Well, there's two rods.
Yep.
So
Threaded,
you-
threaded like the
Rod and rod, rod and rod, there's two rods.
Yeah, it's, okay, gotcha.
So it looks like that plate's 6 inches by 1 foot 8 inch.
That's the channel.
Yeah.
It's a piece of seed-shaped channel that's laying on its back on the top cord of the truss. And then there's an end plate on the end closest to the column, and that has the two holes for the two rods. And so those all get welded together. One of the challenges is in order to, with these rods in these locations, we now have to bore through that 6-inch column. Here it is right here, excuse me, the 6 by 10 column. We're not outside of the column, we're now inboard, they're gonna have to drill through so that we can run those through the column itself. Because of the sloping top cord, this guy, and the proximity to the chimney, they're gonna need like a 3-foot extension on their drill, just to be able to reach in there and hit that one hole on that chimney side.
Good log cabin drill, that's all.
You know, it's exactly what it is,
Yeah.
and so somebody's gotta have that special tool to, you know, to get in there and do it, and it's an extension that they can put.
Yep.
So the backup channel, we're gonna have a backup channel again, back here, it's a different one, it's channel A2, because it's narrower, the bolts are in different locations, so that's all specified. So everything the structural steel guy needs is all laid out here, all his
And this
dimensions.
is all dimensionized, it'll be blown up forever and all that.
Oh, yeah, this would be, this is half size.
So this goes in with the bid, I mean, the bidding
These
process.
are your bid documents, these are your construction
Specifications,
documents. And then with your instructions to bidders and whatever else you have in your RFP, those become the bid documents.
Okay. I guess the goal is we wanna get this out to bid, and we wanna encumber money with this issue's money.
Yep.
And, can you just do this for me?
Yep.
Can you put a range of what you might think, just your expertise, or you feel
I have
comfortable?
no idea.
Okay.
I do it every day and I wouldn't have any
I
idea,
am
Mike, because
so
cold
shocked
downs
at the
and everything
prices
else.
that are out there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't wanna say in public for obvious reasons,
Yeah.
but, so we just
No
gotta,
clue.
we have to see what comes in.
Now,
With contract review, we need you to probably be integral part of the contract
I
review.
will,
Okay.
I will. I'll be happy to act as your owner's representative through this project.
And,
dealing with the
technical,
contract.
right,
Yeah.
because the thing is, the expertise, Dave has the closest, and Bob, maybe these two gentlemen have more expertise to put together than I do.
Yeah.
you know what I would see that would be handy on this particular job is, this isn't that difficult.
Right.
But it's scary to look at, especially for a lot of medium-sized contractors.
Yep.
But it's anything, almost any contractor with a couple of tools can do. There's not a lot of,
You know, I was thinking about it just the other day, that if this was the school, we would probably mobilize volunteers to do most of this work,
right.
if not all of it.
So it's not rocket science, it's just
But
straight.
the thing is, I'm thinking contractors will bid this high, looking at this document. I almost think like a pre-construction meeting
It's on my
with a
list.
few contractors,
Yeah,
so that you go through it like you just did with us, black and white with the little
Yeah.
highlighters, and they could see, oh, this is not a big deal.
yeah,
And it will help us get a lower number right from the beginning, because I know that when the contractors look at these, a lot of them
yeah.
don't understand them as well as they ought, when they're fairly simple if you look at the detail you put in
Yeah.
there.
The, you know, a dozen guys on a Saturday morning could take care of, 80% of this work.
Right.
It's just.
The work that is gonna
it's-
take a little more time is the higher ceilings, cutting the drywall out in those brackets.
Right, the brackets and the patching. We may want to allow the contractor to take down a piece of sheetrock in the middle, just so that they can run stuff straight up instead of trying to go up through that
Right.
patch. As long as they cut and patch, that's fine.
Mhm.
But it's mostly lugging stuff up there. But then once you get up there, as long as you're not stepping through the ceiling, it's walking around, putting things up, nailing. And like I say, a dozen guys and
And
a
there's a
Saturday
lot of room
morning.
up there.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
So-
can get all the lumber
So,
done.
so let's say a small company, how long do you think would be, timeframe?
Depends how many guys they have.
Okay.
If it's one guy, he's there for a month.
Okay, but that's, no, but
yeah.
that gives me a feel for it. Two guys,
A
would I
small
mean,
company that has an
I'd say three
estimate,
guys, maybe
they'll
2
break
weeks.
it out into hours
Right.
for every part of this.
yeah.
You know,
So
they've
you
got
gotta
to
have,
lug all this material up there, so that's just some grunt work.
Yeah.
Maybe some planking and and stuff that they can lay across to step up on to get this upper work done.
Okay.
The brackets underneath, they'll have to set some staging on the floor. We wanna make sure they put some plywood down before they put any staging up there.
Now, you said you're how close to the completing these documents for?
I've gotta do a check set.
Okay.
Which is.
I don't understand that term.
Yeah, I go through with my yellow highlighter and I highlight and I check every single line
Okay.
on here to make sure that plan agrees with the sections, which agrees with the details, and I haven't forgotten something.
Okay.
So, that I'll do over the weekend. And then these will be ready to go, and I'll also take a look at the RFP and maybe have some suggestions if necessary. How to
I like the
structure
idea,
the
oh,
RFP.
you said, and Dave, what Dave said about having a pre-construction meeting for those interested.
Yep, it's on my list, it should be in our RFP that will have what we call a pre-bid conference
Yeah,
at the site. We pick a certain day and time,
Yep.
rather than every time a contractor
yeah,
calls.
mandatory one time,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. So a couple of things on my list here. We've talked about the tension connections at the truss and columns, so that's good. We talked about the LVL, and we're gonna extend it all the way down the side, that's good. Right now, there's about 2,500 pounds of structural steel either in the attic or on the stage. Do you wanna put that in the scope of work to have them bring this stuff down and out?
No, I think we'll do that through volunteers, and we've gotta bring it and put it with the rest of it that's down there,
Okay.
and then I think we'll probably just scrap it and get rid of it.
It's heavy, some of those channels are gonna be 80 pounds, the angles are
You
gonna
know,
be
you know, but
40 pounds.
The thing is, by farming that out a little bit, it gives the opportunity that, I don't wanna have someone get injured themselves.
We could,
That's the problem that I would see. You're in a tight area trying to get him down is.
They come
might have
down
somebody-
fast.
Yeah, they come down. So if they do take off, say, a sheet of drywall on the ceiling, they could hang a chain fall right from one of these purlins up there and lower those, at least get them down onto
To the
the.
ground, outside the building.
most of the ones that
Or
are
even
upstairs
on the
are
floor.
right by the hatch hole too, so
Yeah.
they could even lower them down through that hatch hole.
But you've got 20 pieces of channel, 20 pieces of angle, and another 20 pieces of smaller angle, so.
Leo had a comment that might be value added.
Most of that steel is up in the attic.
Yes,
Half of it.
Yeah.
Can they take that out through the fire escape after?
We gotta get it out of the attic.
Right,
onto the
but
main
once it's
floor.
down there, rather than taking it down the stairs, can you
Yes.
take it out through the,
Yep,
through the fire escape?
yep, in fact, I would think
I
that's
don't
the
know
way
when's
they
the
wanna
last
bring.
time, I don't know when's the last time that anybody stepped on that thing.
Well, you don't need to walk down the fire escape if you can get a piece of equipment up there to just put it on,
Oh, yeah, that's.
you know?
Have a lift.
Exactly.
So
A lift, or maybe, I don't know, Jeff, Bucket
No, but-
wouldn't reach that far, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm worried about liability issue and all that kind of stuff,
I'm worried about volunteers handling heavy stuff
and
like
hurt
that.
themselves,
Okay, let it go.
right?
Oh,
Yeah, I got it, yeah,
I'm working up on top then.
it's like an anvil, yeah.
I mean, the thought is good, but the thing is, I don't know, just the liability, things, we've had people just cutting up wood, in the wood bank and they injured themselves.
Alright, so we'll ask them to bring it all down to the ground.
And then the ground is fine.
Okay, cause while they're taking lumber up, they can be walking down with a piece of
Okay.
steel and,
Maybe Jeff can bring a loader up and we can put it with the rest of this.
Good idea, I like that idea.
even if the truck is right there, they might be able to just chuck it all right in the back of the dump truck and then drive it,
Yeah.
the town
Yeah,
truck.
handle it one
Could,
last
could some of
time.
those be used for flooring up there, the play across beam so they can work on it? Or they-
No.
Okay,
No,
okay, just
they're
use
regular and,
get it out of there,
yeah, they're actually in the way.
okay.
The next item on my list is regarding patching the drywall and so forth. I've got notes in here to where we're taking plaster off ceilings or walls to patch with just a 5/8 inch type X fire rated drywall and tape, tape the joint
Yeah.
up. Do we wanna get into paint?
No,
Okay, I didn't think so, just wanna make
no,
sure.
I agree, gentlemen.
No, yeah, you don't want to, cause sooner or later, something's gonna be done with those walls.
Right, right.
Well, the thing is, you'd have to paint all them walls pretty
Right.
much up there
Yeah.
anyway at some point.
Just,
so.
as long as, it's not like.
We can worry about the
yeah.
painting next year, I guess,
Right.
if we get that far.
Great, I like it because I don't wanna spec paint anyway, so. Patch and tape, I can.
Yeah, and
it's on my notes.
there's a reasonable surface on it.
Yeah, I mean, you want me to sand it, have them sand it, that'll create dust, or with just one coat of tape and
No, I
mud
think,
and.
let's have them sand it and have it prepped, ready for paint,
Yeah,
so it's done.
Okay.
Repatch, paint ready, yeah.
but no paint involved, okay, to paint off it.
Right. Got it. Okay, that was it on my list. So I will, look through the RFP, I'll get my check set, I have a few more things I wanna add on here based on our conversation, make sure they're correct,
Thank you.
and then we'll be ready to go.
Okay,
Are we okay to keep these copies, or do you want them?
Nope, you can have them, they're still labeled not for construction in the upper corner, once they're ready to go, they'll have my stamp on them, and also give them.
before you go, I just wanna say, thank you on behalf of the board. We appreciate the work you do for the town of Dunbarton, and I don't think the town realizes what you're doing for us.
Well, I apologize for delay in getting all this to you, I mean, I
But the
hope
thing
that
is-
was a year ago.
There's a thing called, you have a real job to just take care of too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just wanna, pass this to you, this is, if you just take that is not done with town funds, this is funded by the 3 selectmen, and that's for you. Okay, and so just,
When you say funded, there better not be any money in there.
no money in there,
Okay,
no money in there, for you and your
Just a
better half.
thank you from us, the select board.
thank you, I appreciate your appreciation,
Okay,
very much, thank you.
we don't deal in money,
Yeah, good,
it keeps us honest.
good, because I don't take money.
No, but the thing is, that's a sincere thing, we do appreciate your work, and,
Thank you.
but the thing is, at the same time, you're a volunteer, and being a volunteer,
Well, you guys are volunteers too, there's a lot of volunteers, look at your town report and all the
oh,
volunteers.
exactly, but the thing is,
So this is just
we,
a part that I can do.
we appreciate your expertise, and we really do, I do mean that, I appreciate it, and these guys are right with me.
Thank you.
And we kinda feel bad during the busy season, we got Dave on you all the time.
It's all right, we're getting there.
But better him than us.
Yeah. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
And good luck on your hunting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a great excuse last week.
You know, you can send hunting pictures any time of the year.
How are you doing with your hunting?
I let a little 4-pointer go, I might not should have let him go.
Yeah, I had a little spike horn on the second day that I walked right up to me and I let him.
I
keep
haven't
walking
seen
right
any
on walking.
since.
No, Bob told me his story. He goes, his great granddaughter sees a nice animal outside the house. And things, oh, it's so cute, so wonderful. And Bob said, I wish you weren't here so I could shoot it.
Great granddaughter's looking out the window with these binoculars, you know, and she says, Pepe, come and see this. I says, Cora, what are you looking at? Turkeys? She says, no, something on the hill. So right near the house, I mean, you can drag a hose and clean them out after. She knocked on the glass, buck, huge buck, but not a big spread on his rack, you know.
Yeah.
Looks up, looking at the window, but he doesn't see us.
Yeah.
Starts eating the grass, the doe's there eating with him. So I crank the window open, cause I want her to hear it, you know. He looks at the room again, and he goes back to eating, and I'm thinking, if she wasn't here, that screen would come off, that thing would be dead right there.
Yeah.
You're right through the screen at that point.
Yeah.
All right, good luck.
Enjoy it, thank you.
Thanks, take care.
You can't do that to a little kid.
Don, come on up.
Be a baby, go.
It's got a little girl forever. Okay, Don.
Okay, I'll
Get your comfy chair.
get the comfy chair.
See, this way we don't have to yell.
Are you in for your budget?
Oh, this is awesome.
Do you wanna bring out the 2 emails that are in that
I am.
box? That way we can segue into.
All right, I'm gonna take a segue into it, but we have, essentially, this is the first one. We have a formal resignation from 2 members of the Park and Recreation Committee. And so, the committee is basically non-functional at this point. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to say names or anything like that, so.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that the committee was kind of involved with was lighting of the Christmas tree. And I think we have a solution right here in front of us. Go for it.
Well, basically, Tom Casano is kind of the driving force behind it. He's gonna be the president of the new garden club, next year. And he attended the ceremony last year, and basically it was a non-happening thing. They plugged in the tree, that was about it, you know, and wasn't a whole lot there. So when we were doing the Halloween, when he got these strobe lights that he can put up into the trees, and when the trees move, why the lights are all over. And he says, he got them, they're like $60 or $70 lights, he got them for $10 a piece, so, we got like 6 or 8 of them, or 12, or I forget what he has, but, anyway, we got to talking about, the garden club could take over, because we do so much on the common anyway, we do the cleanup in the spring and the fall, and so this would just be one more thing that we could do for the community. And so, I got to talking, and I got up in the middle of the night, last night, and, I wrote down some things that we could do, and
I
at the
can see
time
the
I
hot dogs are coming out for Christmas.
yeah. But, anyway, I thought that, Stanley down here donated a tree in the past, and they went to an artificial tree. Well, I guess they bought a brand new artificial tree, it's down here in the shed. And I don't know what size it is or anything like that, but, we'd like to see a real tree rather than an artificial tree.
I vote for the real tree too.
Yeah, so, if we got your support, why then we can do that. The other thing is that we got the church has their Christmas program, it starts at 4 o'clock, it's usually over at around 6. We figured we would start ours at 5 o'clock, for the preliminaries, have the lighting at 6:30. And what the preliminaries are, is that I contacted Shelley, and she's gonna send out, a handout to all the children in Dunbarton School, to the homeschoolers, and at the library for the preschoolers. And, we would have them bring an ornament and put it on the tree from 5 to up to about 6:30, so that we have children involved into it. We'll have music, hot chocolate, stuff like this, make it a more of a happening,
Similar, the extent of the Halloween, but with the Christmas theme.
yeah, with a Christmas theme. And,
S'mores.
with, basically, we're not talking a lot of money or anything like this. We did Halloween for under $700, so, it doesn't take much. But, we would have that, and, have Santa Claus come. We need somebody that's really big, Dave.
Justin.
Jolly.
Start working on the beard.
Yeah, so,
It is white too, that's why I don't grow it.
but, I got to thinking, we should buy a good Santa Claus outfit.
Should check
Fred
with
one.
Fred. Does Fred Mullen have one? He used to
He
have
had
one.
one.
Who?
I don't know if
Fred.
he still has it, yeah.
You don't know if he still has it?
A big Santa will never fit in Fred's suit.
Yeah.
He had a big pillow in there.
He did.
Yeah.
But, Santa Claus would come at around 6:35, right in there, and the whole thing will be over by 7:30 or so.
I'm in favor of them doing it, and I'm also in favor of them, supplementing their budget, with some dollars from the rec committee, since the rec committee is now defunct.
Now, when you say it's defunct, is that the last two members?
There's one more, Will Johnson. Technically, he only works with, the basketball and registrations and scheduling. for the-
What
So
they,
that's not the whole town recreation committee. That is?
and what they have,
Those are the ones that used to do the fireworks and all that,
and the bus trip,
and it's all,
the bus trip is not defunct this year, so there's dollars in there.
It's not
which was-
happening, so there is some money there.
I don't have any issue with that, but I think if there's only one member, we should at least pass it by that member.
He's never been involved in this part of
He
it.
hasn't?
No, I can definitely send it to him. Might get another resignation, but again, he is involved with the basketball.
I would,
Well, why don't we just do it on our own, but wait a second, it's their funds, right?
No, it's
No,
ours. This
it's
is
our
the
money.
town
it's a
budget.
town budget.
They
It's a
have
town-
they have a checkbook that
It's
they
the town's
manage.
money.
They
It's
manage
the town's
the,
money, but don't they generally manage those funds?
No, we've actually taken money away from them and given it to the old home day committee.
yeah.
$1,500.
It's
Because
just-
they weren't doing anything
Yeah.
with the money.
And
You know,
this year, we gave them enough to, if they wanted to reinstitute the
I think it was
the bus trip.
reduced to, do I have the whole packet of the budget in there?
No, I know.
With the holes in it, see that one? Yeah, right over there. The rec, it should be to the back, I think.
Put it back, okay.
I think we reduced it to $1,600 and it hasn't been spent.
It
So
was
it's
1,700 for the year.
1,700, okay.
And this year, actuals, they spent $46.
Oh, and
They
that
had
would-
$1,300 available for the excursion, never materialized.
Yeah,
And so I'd like to make a motion that we offer like maybe up to $1,000.
Well, he said it shouldn't cost as much as the Holiday Inn, right?
Well, it depends on, you know,
Yeah,
what
you
we're
know,
gonna
I'd be
do.
a little conservative, Michael.
Okay,
thinking
okay, 1,000 pennies.
No, I was thinking, you know, I was thinking maybe $500 or $700.
That's,
but
okay, I think that more reasonable.
Yeah,
What did you wanna go, 5 or 7? What do you think you're gonna need?
Yeah, that's,
The first year, you might not,
If we buy a Santa Claus suit, and that way, we'd have that investment there, but that would be something that would last for years.
yeah,
okay, yeah.
and then you've got hot chocolate,
We've got the lights and everything else, the hot chocolate, stuff like this, you know, things that, you know, use the budget to entertain the citizens, you know. And then,
Hot dogs.
hot dogs,
For Dave.
the hot dogs went great, you
I
know,
don't know why you wouldn't have those.
yeah.
so did you share the date that this is scheduled for? Cause
It's the 8th.
The church does a,
December 8th,
4 to 6 is there, are 4, you know, roughly
Holiday.
2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. But then we'll have that crowd come over, see, that's the nice thing.
Okay, yeah, only thing I'm concerned with, and the thing is, Portsmouth has went through a bunch of, it's gonna be almost somewhat non-secular too, somewhat.
what do you mean Durham?
Durham, excuse me, yes. Durham is off the deep end, in my opinion.
yeah,
Uh,
taking down their wreaths and everything.
Right, and so the thing is, we gotta be sensitive to that to a small degree, we don't have to be extreme.
Right.
And I'm just, would you agree with me, gentlemen?
We just do a different color hot dog or something.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a different reason why the town went that way. It wasn't about celebration as much as what was involved with doing that, with getting enough people involved, so it's,
Okay.
They're
So
trying
I,
to be more inclusive or something.
Yeah.
instead of TV.
We're up to 54 or 56 members now in the garden club.
okay, then I think,
Wow.
And, yeah, because we were at 51.
there's another member willing to join in behind you.
Well, we work him like a little pony in that.
I think after they light this tree,
But
they
he
should
won't
come to
pay
my
to work
house.
for that hour.
I know, I heard that he wants to pay to work now.
Would 500 be enough to start on this year? Or do
I
you-
guess he can always come back. I mean, if you guys approve up to a certain dollar
Yeah,
amount,
say
I'll
up
just.
to
you know-
750 or something like that, nice round figure, and if we don't need it, we won't use it.
Okay.
it's your first year, so,
Yeah.
you know, at least we'd have something to gauge it by. If there's not gonna be a very active recreation committee, then we can put that in a different set of funds, so that, you know, you also have the old home day that runs into hurdles sometimes.
Do you want me to just send, Will Johnson an email saying that because we've had these resignations, the selectmen have authorized that much money
Just
from the local town budget to,
For the garden club.
For the garden
tree
club
raising.
to-
to execute the
Execute the
Christmas, the holiday.
Holiday.
Right,
Okay,
celebration.
I make a motion, we authorize up to $750, for,
Second Mike's motion.
for this endeavor.
For the holiday season lighting.
Any further discussion? Just keep good accounting so we can at least have like you always do, but I would expect some good accounting, so.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not just giving away money. Okay, and the thing is, we'll still have excess money to return to the town from the budget too. Thing is, that my philosophy was, where can we expend the money in this venue, do the most for the most citizens? And like the old home day was one example, which I did not mind moving money around, because the attendance at the old home day was spectacular.
Yeah.
And, so,
so
And
take
you
a vote.
guys fund a
Yep.
portion of that yourselves,
just
I
a little
think.
discussion phase.
Now, the question has come up, like, a menorah, you know, do we get the two local churches involved or anything like that, or keep it
Keep it simple.
keep it simple, okay?
And all in favor of this at this point, or you want any more
Aye.
discussion? Aye, we're in favor, so you got some dollars to spend.
Okay,
I don't think it hurts to let people know about the light up, you know.
right. We'll keep it, but,
Cause, you know, putting a Christmas tree is one thing, if you start putting a manger, then a manure up there, it's like, then what are we gonna do? So then we're gonna have a Wiccan come in, wanna do something with other stuff.
And I think if we call it a holiday lighting tree on anything you guys develop, it's not looking at Christmas. Because that's another thing Dover was having, or Durham was having issues with sectifying out, not having all the holidays for all of the different
yeah,
nationalities.
see, I think Concord, when they have theirs, where they have the menorah on one flag and the next one is a Christmas wreath, and then, you know.
You got, and then we'll end up
You're not-
offending somebody.
There's always gonna be somebody unhappy.
Right, so keep it very generic.
Just holiday lighting.
Yeah.
And the
Holiday
thing is-
tree lighting.
And the thing is, if someone next to me, asks me about, do I like the Christmas tree, I may say, yeah, it's a nice Christmas tree,
Yeah,
and so be it. But the thing is, we'll just call it a holiday celebration, and we'll call it that. Okay,
So
Yeah, they have a
you,
problem with that unless they're Christmas cookies.
for the record, the thing is,
that's a good idea.
my son
Christmas
gave me a
cookies
Christmas
with
list.
hot chocolate.
oh,
And I'm looking at this Christmas list, I said, this is ridiculous. So I went downstairs and picked up the stones I picked up walking along the trails in Dunbarton, and it was a bowl of coal. I said, choose wisely, up to 2 pieces. He appreciated that.
this here is, let's see, I think we got it on here.
Oh, this is, now we're gonna put your other hat on?
Yeah, this,
Oh, shit.
there.
I see them out there
Those are
working.
just pictures from yesterday and today and that, but we're making progress out back here, and I don't know if you had a chance to go out and take a look.
I seen him working, I didn't have a chance to go see him.
Yeah, it's just thick paper.
That is
Just
real
doing
light paper.
Very nice.
that. And, Swanson's, grant, I'm putting benches in at the end of the aisles here. There's 5
Where you
of
getting the
them,
money for that?
and, we accrued that, they're already,
You get a family name per bench?
yeah. So, the benches run, you know, for all 5 of them, $2,070. And if someone wants to put a bench in, why, we'll just tell them, we've got the benches, but you can purchase the bench for $1,000, that includes engraving and stuff like that, and so,
So you're actually gonna make money on the benches?
yeah. Well, no, really, the engraving's gonna cost more, it's,
Cost neutral, cost neutral.
they have to come out here, so it's just a nice flat fee. So, but we recover our cost.
We're gonna have you run more funds.
So it looks like you're not returning the 10,000
What?
this year. Looks like you got, usually they're returning the 10,000.
No, they're spending their money this year.
Oh.
And warrant articles and,
Yeah.
You know, he didn't used to wanna be chair, but now he has money to spend, he loves it.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have a booth, because we're gonna raise the full body burial to 400 in all the cemeteries. And the single cremation plot will go for $100 rather than
Would
$75.
that be by warrant? You just raise it arbitrarily.
No, that should, did some checking, because we can set the price as long as we let people know, but we're gonna do it as of April 1st.
Okay,
So I'm gonna start buying my land now.
Well, we're gonna have a booth at the town meeting, and people will be able to, you know, we're simplifying our paperwork and that, but they'll be able to purchase them.
would that require a public hearing too?
I think they should, because they fall under a different umbrella, the
Right.
cemetery trustees, and they have the authority and they follow different rules and guidelines. They should be able to have a public hearing in their own meeting
That's what I'm
to
saying.
announce
Yeah,
that they're
well,
going to
February
have.
meeting is designed, it's in our minutes and that from from the November
Okay.
meeting, that there'll be a public hearing in February,
Okay.
the February meeting, and so we'll be able to get public input on it. But basically, that's where we get our funding, you know,
Or you
for
made for
put that
maintenance
on
and
for
stuff.
our different projects. Now,
Have you compared with other little communities too?
yeah, you know,
Okay.
I've talked, the New Hampshire Cemetery Association. So.
Do we wanna put those pictures on Hot Topics, Lean?
If he sends them to me,
I'll
I
send
work
them
with
to you.
them and put anything he needs up there, which is
A
always.
little publicity never hurts,
Yeah,
because people are just dying to get in.
yeah, I'm pretty shy though. Now, as long as we're talking dollars and cents here, I'd like to do a warrant article, this year. Cause our other one runs out in 2020 that we have for fixing the stones and that. And I'd like to do a warrant article so I can finish the 2 roads going across in Page's Corner and do the same project here on the Cremains Garden, at Page's Corner. And I asked Jeff to get me a bid on the road, plus resurface this one out here. And that, so basically, it's maintenance that has to be done sometime, and I'd rather do it now.
Depending on your dollar value, you may wanna look at doing a warrant article on one and save one for another year, only if you look at your dollar value.
Yeah,
And you gotta remember, you're going to the voters with this, so a warrant article, when you do stuff like that, depending on what you're looking at for dollar values, you may wanna do one per year and keep it a little bit spread out than getting,
A huge,
well,
huge impact.
well, we did the one road up there this year,
yeah?
and we were doing the Cremains Garden this year. So, I'm gonna have.
But you had funds to work with to do most of that.
Well, the funds that they have spent are the,
Encumbered ones from last year.
encumbered money. They also spent their operating budget, and
Yeah.
then they had the warrant article where all the sale of any,
Yeah, of our plots and
the
that. it
plots goes into that
expendable.
capital reserve, expendable capital
Yeah.
reserve, so they can withdraw it, so they've been
So
spending.
how much
it
did
now.
you spend this year? Let's go with that.
Oh, let's see, with all that, probably close to
I think it's close to 20.
25,000.
So when I'm listening to what you're saying, you're gonna try and do another 20 next year. What I'm saying is, if you look at your dollar
Well, I
value,
don't think it'll be that much, because the Cremains Gardens up there, it's
Small.
real long, it goes all along the south wall there. And,
But I agree with Dave, the thing is, if you come in with a big, large amount, it'd be more apt to run into resistance. A little amount 1 year, figure what you can do just next year, then come back to the voters to finish the project.
a
It's very-
small warrant article, you're gonna get up there and you're gonna talk through it,
Mhm.
and it's gonna go fairly smoothly for you. You get into larger dollar values, people are gonna say, well, if you have a road in there, wouldn't you sell plots around the road there before you start developing more roads? If you have a Cremains garden, why wouldn't you fill that one up before you develop another one, you know? You're gonna get resistance if you go too high with it.
but the Cremains Garden is there. I mean, that's already there, all we're doing is putting in the walkways. And so it's,
But,
Some people are gonna say we'd rather walk on grass and.
no, but,
I'm just kidding.
no, but
The problem is
that's
that-
reality.
Ted Valuers is a good example, his funeral and that, they parked on the Cremains Garden.
Oh,
You know,
geez.
they had 3 cars across going, you know, across the Cremains Garden, so it's, and, as far as our roads go, they're all grass, I mean, that's great, but nobody knows where to drive.
Well, you just made a point, I'm gonna do a regular lot now. Nobody's driving on me.
Just remember,
I'm gonna
you're
get the
not the
numbers.
only department that's probably gonna come in with warrant articles, and so when people start to see all of those, you may wanna look at what you might wanna do, and then what you think you actually can do.
Yeah.
In 1 year.
Because,
And, you know, just try not to bite off too much in 1 year is what I'm saying, so
yeah.
you don't follow a lot of resistance right up front and take baby steps with the warrant articles, cause
Yeah.
there's gonna be a lot of others, cause we have ones that come every year anyway, like the fire truck that, you know, is gonna cost $450,000 or whatever it's gonna cost.
We put a little bit every
Putting
year.
some in the maintenance on a lot of these
Yeah.
different vehicles that we have to replace every year anyway, so those are already kind of a given, and so.
So I guess what he's trying to say is, try to spread over 2 years, see what you could actually get done
Yeah.
next year, and then have additional monies to ask for the following year, it's much easier that way.
And remember this, if you put them both in and they get shot down, you don't get either.
Yeah.
But if you put one in and you get that this year, then you do the next one next year. It may go a little easier for you where you actually get the funding, it's, cause if they deny it, you get shut down.
And then you may have to reserve, actually operate on your operating budget to finish what you wanna finish.
Right. Well, see, if I sell more plots, you know, for people to pre-plan,
Right,
then that gives me more operating money.
absolutely.
So that's kind of
So
where
you-
I'm going.
Just beware of asking for too much initially.
Yeah, well, if nothing else, I'll finish the roads up there or do the cremains, one or the other.
Yeah, and that's your,
Because I'll have one to show them how it's going to look. That, you know, that's a nice thing.
proof of concept. is-
Snow in March, but,
Yeah, no, it's very good to have that,
yeah.
what you've done, and show what you've done.
I was just thinking, you know, for my signage and everything, you know, at the town meeting, you know, become a permanent resident of Dunbarton.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just afraid of where my kids will put me if I don't buy one.
Oh, jeez, okay, So, fair enough.
Okay.
Anything else, Don?
I think that's it, thank you very much. And,
Thank you for what you do. You really,
Thanks, Don.
turned that committee around.
so, well, we're having fun and, we're gonna be, going up, I think this weekend and check out the Hearst House and stuff like this. I know that to utilize that hearse, why, you've got to have a horse that's, it won't stampede or something like this, and I think the guy that does the, hay rides around here.
Yep.
And that his horses are certified and that, but, you know, I think that, you know, we've got a lot of older citizens that are passing away that would probably, you know,
Enjoy having
enjoy
a little
going
nostalgia.
out in their
The last
hearse.
ride, right?
Yeah, go for that last ride.
I think that was visited already. I think you're gonna get a lot of pushback from the people who restored that, because that's more of a museum piece for people to see in parades and what have you.
Yeah.
Not to be used,
That's a
number
functional
one,
piece.
you'd have to be very short to fit in it. Really,
Yeah, the casket would hang off.
have to be very short to fit in it.
My
It's
legs
been,
just
already
stick out
had
the
meetings
back.
on that, and it met with a lot of
Yeah.
resistance. So I,
No, I guess what Leo's is, there's
it's,
caution
it's
there.
not made for, it's not made for
Big
riding people around in. It's not that, at that point, you know? Really, all the ones that we've gone to see in different towns, and all the ones that the committee has gone to see in different towns,
Yeah,
Oh, it's right
they're
there
hands
on
off.
the wall right there.
Well,
See, it's
that-
Oh, yeah, they're hands off.
okay.
My feet would hang out the back, huh?
You and Bob both?
Yeah,
Well,
no,
people
I
were
mean,
shorter then,
you wouldn't even fit.
so.
Gail was in
Most of
it,
these
Gail
people
was in
were
it to
already
do the
riding
upholstering
horses,
inside. Gail
like
upholstered all the
cars.
ceiling
We
and all
could
that.
do rather than-
And her feet were hanging out of it while she was
Cut it
working.
right at the knees and
It's
make
very
the
short.
pants smaller.
Yeah.
And you can get around.
Thank you, Don.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
All right, now it's my turn now, mailbox item.
Mike, can I ask, was there anything that started the resignations of two people all at once on that, or?
It was me asking if there was gonna be a bus trip, and then I got the response, because our office has been the hub for tracking, getting phone numbers, taking phone calls, to schedule it, and then that's how I got the response. Someone had called asking if there was gonna be a bus trip.
Okay. Bob, did you see this? Give this back.
I saw them both.
I'm gonna pass them over. I don't want them. I'll get accused of stealing. Now he's getting picked again. Okay,
I'll let Linda know though, so
Anything else,
that the
big, big way?
reappointment
Okay.
next year won't happen for those two.
I'm just looking, I didn't sign that one. for some
okay.
reason.
Bob sent us, Fred Mullen sent us an update on the,
So,
monuments.
Oh, yeah, the D and the D,
Yeah,
okay.
he's working that issue. Anything we have to add to that, just it's work in progress.
Yep.
But it's nice to have an email from him. Thank you, Fred, if you're listening. Woody gave us a great summary of what's going on down at the transfer station.
I have some comments for that one.
Yeah, I'm not, if you can make comments now, but I wanna wait till he's here. I think it would be more,
Well, I know, but so that he's here and we're in the same understanding, we
Yeah.
can talk about it.
yeah,
One of the things is he wants to put the truck up for sale. And I don't know if you guys are looking at a minimum bid, but I think he also should include all the repairs that were done to it, cause it makes a difference on how someone's gonna bid.
absolutely.
You
That would,
know, the way I look at
That's a
it
good
now
point.
is,
Yep,
you go to the salvage yard, you buy a seat for the front of the truck, and you've got a pretty good truck, cause he's done quite a bit to it. And somebody might think, well, it's an old beat up truck, so they're not gonna bid much,
But
and then
this-
actually it's got new brakes and there's been a ton of work put into it.
Now, did the truck we have had a wrap on the back?
Oh, the one we're selling or the one we're buying?
The one we're selling, did that have a wrap?
It did, I don't know what the difference is with the old one.
So,
I just didn't remember any talk
regarding,
about the
we
wrap.
can, that can be an action item as far as, please let them know that we'd like to be involved in the bid setting, and as well as,
Well, we have
need to
some
go-
directives.
We have a list
Yeah.
of what we want, a list of delineates, how many, what improvements were made over the year.
Right. We have some directives as to how it should be put out to bid, because I don't want somebody coming in and say, I only got this one bid. You know, and actually, they should be sending the bids in to the office.
They do, they should, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It should be sealed bids and they'll come to my
Right.
office.
Uh,
So
he
you
also,
want-
he talked about,
So you're saying the ad that we post, truck for sale,
I wanna
list
be
the
reviewed by
items,
the, I wanna see it
list the
reviewed.
items of that
Yeah,
are
he's
prepared.
got two, from what I can see, that we signed checks for fixing the truck.
Yeah.
It's like
He's
800.
got two that, delineate what, you know, what was put into the truck.
We can pull those up,
Yeah,
make sure that's.
And so, if we put a list of that there, they know they're not buying a pig in a poke, that the
Right.
truck has been, you know, so they can pass inspection.
And in fact, we'll advertise it as have a safety inspection sticker.
That's a good
You
point,
know?
yeah.
So I could have the selectmen review the ad before it goes out. Was that all right? I'll review the ad?
Mm-hmm.
I can
Yeah,
work on that next
But at
week.
least to give them directives that we wanna have it listed what
With
was
all, right. But the thing is,
prepared in the truck, and I don't know, but
we,
maybe we can look at it and see if there should be a minimum bid.
that's where I was going. You took the word out of my,
You know?
a minimum bid, and then we'll have a minimum bid.
Mhm.
Can we set that? Say minimum bid is, the starting bid is at this.
Yeah.
Please put your sealed bids into us.
Yep, and then list the repairs that were,
Dave, what do you think about that?
What'd you say?
We wanna create a starting bid
Yes, I think that's correct.
and go from there.
Yeah, I remember Bob already said that way back at the beginning, I agree with that.
You can just say, we have no bid, and then someone bids $10, and they walk away with the
Well,
truck.
you know, he had, one time I think he mentioned that, the painter was interested.
No,
oh, a few people have.
I've
even
had
the-
some of the
Yeah,
tractor
and then,
workers
and
now.
then, so
Employees,
somebody
yeah.
else mentioned after, there were other people that were interested,
Mhm.
besides that person, we should put it out to bid, you know, and,
Yep,
Is there anything else you wanna talk about in there?
No, I
Anything
think,
else?
like you said, the rest can be talked about later.
Yeah. All right, just for the record, Bold Times today has a discussion about a $10 million bond issue. If that was affecting our children going into the elementary school from grades 1 through 6, it would affect us, but I do not think this affects us, because we send people to the middle school, so.
that's correct, Mike. I did, happen to see Jarrett in the office today,
Okay.
and he confirmed that.
Okay, we have a, next item, the fire chief has found a reasonable deal on a electric cot for the volunteer fire department. And I'm gonna let Lean talk to this, since she talked.
Dave,
Oh, Dave will talk to it. Dave, you're on here, talk to it.
Okay, let me sign it first.
I basically took his notes that he shared with you, Dave,
Yeah,
kind of put it on a
Um,
summary.
so John Wigan is looking to get an electric cot for the volunteer fire department for the ambulance. Right now, we're one of very few that don't have an electric cot. Right now, it takes a minimum of 4 people to pick up the cot on site and put it in. And our current cot has some height restrictions when they get into the emergency rooms where they can't get down to the height that the emergency room cots are at, so they have to lower it all the way to the ground
And then lift the patient up.
and then lift the patient up onto the other cot, so, he's got some back issues. They were looking to do this as a warrant article for next year, and it was about $24,000 to get this electric cart, or cot. And, in doing his research and trying to get companies to price, it was a single source vendor. In other words, we buy direct from the vendor, not out of wholesalers, so he looked online to buy it through other vendors, and they were marking up the product, cause we buy direct, so it's kind of a single source. And they have an arrangement at the end of this year,
At the end of November, that
at
expires.
the end of November, it's gonna happen real quick, that he was able to save a substantial amount of money off the purchase. I'll read the notes here, just so we're clear on it. I'm requesting to approve the purchase of electric cot for the volunteer fire department from the fire department budget, so nothing extra. The $13,599.85 special also includes over $2,000 worth of extras on this cot. The loan source quote is attached. The current cot is manual that they have now, which is pretty burdensome. The new cot will have electric control, it can be run by one person, so it'll help avoid injuries and can be lowered down to the correct height. He has enough within his budget from his different line sources to take care of the funding. And, so it's way over 50% savings on this cot, and he's asking to do it now because that special will run out very quickly.
November 30th.
And because it was out of his budget, I told him I had no issue with it, and I would explain it to you guys tonight. So it's saving the town a substantial amount of money if he waits to put it into a warrant article.
We're talking about $12,000, $11,000 savings.
Yeah. It's like 45%, I think,
So basically, every year,
plus the 2,000 for
the
the
fire
extras.
chief has a designated line that he puts in anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 a year to supply the, equipment that might need to be replaced. And he said he was going to purchase hoses this year
Yes.
with that money, but that,
He'll hold off on the
He'll hold-
hoses, and if he's still interested in doing the hoses, and he can't do it with his budget, he'll do a warrant article on the hoses if need be.
yeah, and that would come
He's
from,
been one of the most effective managers of money in this town, and as far as keeping this department slim, I have no issues with this.
You wanna do a consensus or a motion?
I motion.
and then sign it.
I'll
And
make a
we'll,
motion, make him
scan
want
it
you
to
sign
John
it,
and he
okay?
can get it out before the deadline.
I'll make a motion that we approve, the sum of $13,599.85 for the purchase of an electric cot for the volunteer fire department, using his, current budget funds from 2019.
Will you be a second?
Any further discussion on it? As I said, I think John has done a fabulous job maintaining his budgets over the years, and when he comes up with a good deal, he saves the town a lot of money, so I applaud the gentleman. All in favor?
Aye.
Mhm.
I'm doing this, Lean created a information sheet, which I helped, give her some input, and she, said, regarding, Bob, if you take a look at that.
The board asked that I schedule a, training session to review the two
Excuse
health
me.
plans and the, optional, health savings account. And I've scheduled that for December 2nd, so I've sent out that memo to all the,
Yeah, I saw that, and I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, just keep
right
our
now.
Yeah.
employees informed.
Yep.
And I think that's great. She bullied that, it's no problem.
Yeah, I read that
Okay.
too earlier, so I'm good with that.
Thank you, good job, Lean. Lean is already, she's, just for the, as you saw this morning, we had the, assessing department came in, she's been aggressive already in getting people out. She's got people scheduled for the rest of the, we saw that, there's an inbox, there's a schedule of people coming to us for the budgets. She also has in our inbox, did everyone get a copy of this, or just the one in the
no,
inbox?
that's just, the draft that I sent out, just to show that, and I'll keep that in my binder. And then as the schedules come up, you'll get an updated report, and they'll have their numbers in
Okay.
the,
Recall that we were talking last week about Windows being, the current Windows version going out of service and out of support. Lena's been talking computers, and what can you update us on computers?
so Dan had approached
This
me.
is just for the police department, correct?
Currently, I had mentioned to the board that I will be coming before the board for a warrant article. We've done it, almost 5 years ago, and allocated like just under $13,000 for a non-lapsing 5-year warrant article. I'd like to try to attempt that again. At this point though, Dan is concerned that if we wait until March, that period between January and March, if anything should go wrong with, any of the backups or the computers, that he may not have the support he needs, to restore what information he has on his computer.
Did he have enough money in his budget for this, Lean?
No, he has no money in his budget, so,
Tell him good luck.
so he did work with the computer, the tech support that does his updates. And then I was aware that we are entitled, we can get, a government discount through Dell, and, so we got 2 quotes there. Dan did have his technician review my quote, and he's confirmed that everything there is adequate and more than adequate. Then I think the monitor was 2 inches smaller than what they had quoted. But, there's a over $1,500 savings, is that what I wrote on the front sticker somewhere?
4,500 versus 79. The way that you,
It's just the top section, the
Yeah.
rest is like batteries
Alright.
and service install and conversion, so.
okay,
So there is a savings there, it's about $1,500 savings, I
Alright.
believe. I just need to ask the board, how would you like us to proceed?
all right.
Keep all the computers together with a warrant, or do we wanna try to get a few of these implemented before the end of the year, and, because the.
When do we need to make a decision on this one?
Well, typically when a company like Dell gives you a quote, it's valid for a certain window of time,
Well, we're not meeting next week.
correct?
I was just thinking out loud, if we could look at our budget first before we make that decision, cause we wanna make sure to encumber at least Jeff's work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still, remember I asked about dollars, I just wanna get a range, and we don't know that yet.
Right,
Right,
And it's not, the thing is, I guarantee it will not be near what we had before. It'll be much, I think it'll be higher.
oh, no,
it won't be higher than what we had before, but it won't be the $5,000 we had left. Okay. So, I'm thinking, on a conservative, I think somewhere maybe between 10 and 15,000, if you're looking
Yeah,
at all
think
the
high,
labor and everything.
think high, maybe 20.
yeah, I agree.
The only thing I don't like these estimates, I mean, why do we, are the monitors so, are they 3 years old and the monitors are deficient? We're buying brand new monitors? I questioned this quote. The thing is, I think monitors last, like, I'm still using on my computer a monitor that's like almost 8 years old now, and it's wonderful.
I gotta tell you, my office just replaced my computer because it crashed.
Okay,
I got nothing except for the computer itself,
The brain,
the brain, and you're talking, I don't know what you guys need for, but it's several $100s, and we have, how many computers are we replacing to do this?
4 in that case, 4
Four in
computers and
this, so
4
you're looking at
monitors.
2,500 each.
total $600 and $700 each, plus monitors like another $500 for 4 monitors.
Yeah, but they had an overall of 10,000 here.
Well,
Mike,
that's
but-
the labor, there's batteries, and there's Microsoft Office, that's the software. So there's the install, taking all the data from one computer, putting it on the new computer.
I just have again, I'm concerned about, it's not a bad price for a computer, it's $619 for a computer workstation, that's not bad. And each monitor is $120, again, that's
Okay.
very inexpensive.
So, the week after next, I come back with a budget, and then I ask Dan in the meantime if he absolutely needs to have the monitors replaced.
Monitors, and I thought I saw something in here about,
And I can understand
We
maybe
need-
having 2 old monitors and 2 are newer, or something to that effect,
Yeah,
because monitors, they just haven't changed a lot in the last
I know that the connection in the back
That's
is what's critical, but I
Absolutely.
think that everything we have right now is newer than it is older. So they have that adapter right now that should connect to the new computer.
Okay, and I saw some discussion in here on solid state drives.
Yep,
Yeah,
and that is the
what-
way to go.
solid state.
I challenge that.
Well, this,
They're nice, because, you know why they're nice? Because they're a little bit faster, and a little bit faster drives the price of the computer up. And the thing is, the solid state drives, you compare one solid state drive versus the traditional solid state drive, the difference is you get like 4 times the storage on a regular drive rather than that, and the new drives are pretty competitive with solid state drives as far as speed. I mean, how instantaneous does he wanna have it? He's not playing computer games, or maybe, I don't know, but I don't think he's playing computer games, I know he's not. But
I think
the quote's reasonable, but the thing is, the specifications, I don't know,
I don't know the details of it, that's what he requested, and that's what I got dealt to quote.
Can you not add monitors after?
Oh, absolutely can, yeah, it's a separate price on it.
Yeah, but I mean, you could add monitors after.
And the only other thing is, if we purchased them all at once, would we be getting a larger discount?
I
That
guess
is
that's a
very
good
true.
question to ask.
So I guess if we could do a little bit more research on it, then
And I'm not,
look at what we have in our maintenance budget.
My only
and then we
concern
can
with
go.
buying them all at once is I would rather not do that. I typically stagger the replacements,
Right, but he's gonna replace all his at once.
yeah, yeah.
but the thing is, the install can go staggered, I think that you can buy them at one time, but just stagger the install.
But my point is, if you buy your,
You got newer ones and older ones, so you don't have to replace them all at
Right.
once. is
yeah,
what
you're gonna
I
have to
thought.
replace them all at once.
She can do
It's-
one or two, and then next year she can do one or two, it could be
And that's,
more of a maintenance line than it is
exactly,
a.
yeah, and that's what the warrant article did, is we had like just under 13,000. It covered a server, which is 4,500 plus install,
Right.
and then a computer like every 6 months.
And the other thing, Lean, is one computer over there probably has critical information on it
Mhm.
that you probably wanna do before the end of the year, but the other ones may not have critical information.
Mhm.
And I know I ran different levels of that Office and Windows for many, 7, 8, 10 years after they were supposed to not
Support it.
support it,
Mhm.
and I never had any issues with it, you know?
No,
So-
I think it's important to have, because when we're spending 10 grand on on this, like assessing department, when we're spending 10 grand on assessing software, you want it to be compatible with the operating system, that's critical.
Well, that's why we had to, first there were other towns that tested the software, they got the bugs out of it. It was confirmed by our assessor that said that he's working with 3 other towns that had that upgraded software, and it works with Windows
Yeah,
10,
but
and that was the critical.
he's doing more than this word processing, the police chief has to interface with other communities,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing is,
Yeah.
he's gotta have an up-to-date operating system, that's the only, I agree with you totally, if it was just word processing, heck, you can work on a 10-year-old
But I'm
computer.
just saying, you could, one of them might be before the end of the year, and the other one might go.
Totally agree, so he should probably identify the most critical computer and have it, 1 or 2 computers, and do half of them up front.
And then if we could just look at our maintenance budgets to see what's left in there. 'cause-
Okay.
And then we'll try and pull a dollar value out for that,
Okay,
see what's left.
maintenance budget.
So, I'm looking at buying maybe half the amount, give him 2 computers, but I don't wanna do it without input from him. You know, I just remember my son coming up to me, can I get the solid state drive, I said, no.
I will say, my first computer crash was this big. My next computer was just this big, and now my whole computer is this big.
We had that one at the welfare, it never worked right from the beginning. I hated that
The
computer,
little one.
the little one.
I know, that's what I just got from my house, it seems good so
Hopefully it
far.
lasts longer for
yeah.
you, but.
Yeah, Don, Chief talked about, this is the software, talked about the solid state drive, so he was
Okay.
actually reached out to us to ask him for direction. So,
And this is where I had sent him the Dell quote, and their network, their company, which is CCS and H, said that they approve the system that Dell
Okay.
quoted us on. So
Again,
they're apples to apples, basically, so.
I'm not really making I like to talk to Dan before we make a final decision.
And the question you had too was, do we really need to replace the monitors?
Right. Well, it could save him 500, monitors, like $500, $500 is $500 in this town, and it's out of our back pockets.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna go for public
I
comment.
don't have anything.
Okay, I'm gonna close for public comment, I'm bringing it back to the board, Dave, you first.
Me first?
Yes. We do have a non-public tonight for the record, just to let you know, we're going non-public afterwards.
Okay, I have 2 things to the board tonight. First of all, I met with Brett St. Clair out on Guinea Road earlier this week. It does look like they're possibly gonna upgrade that section of road.
They came in yesterday, gave me a letter that they gave to their abutter,
Yep,
and they are moving forward with
So, they have their pricing squared away, and, we worked with the width of the road and the flagging, and all the trees down there that they look like they're gonna cut, or have to cut to get the correct width of road in, are flagged now, if you guys wanted to take a drive through. I asked Brett to come down there, cause the contractor was gonna meet me down there, to make sure that he could have his input and see the trees that were gonna be removed. One thing that there was some talk about is, if you remember, we did the 250 feet for that zoning district.
Right.
And they were gonna do the turnaround where there was a break in the stone walls kind of just after that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that looked like it was a little too close to some historical stones and foundations, so the contractor had talked about bringing the turnaround back to the end of the 250 feet, more right on their, it's still on their land, but bringing it back, because that stone wall has to be moved anyway, so if he's taking that stone wall out, he may as well make the turnaround there and not put it down closer to the more critical stone wall.
Did the road agent get a chance to chime in here?
No, but the road agent will chime in on the size of the turnaround.
Okay,
So they're gonna contact Jeff next.
excellent.
He's also gonna contact Jeff in reference to the state-approved gravels, cause his pit already has state-approved gravels in them, but they're not crushed gravels. And he wants to make sure that that's approved with Jeff.
Okay,
So he's gonna reach out direct with Jeff on that. But the biggest thing is there's two tight spots on that road where the big oak trees, the 24-foot is right to the face of it. And in some sections, the road's not gonna be elevated enough to cover all the roots, so if you clean down straight on the root system on that big oak, you're virtually gonna kill it. So there's two sections on that road that Brett may come to us later on to give a little give and take between the road agent and the,
requirement.
in the requirement, to just maybe, you know, give a little space for those couple of really nice big oaks not to lose them. So I told him I'd bring it in front of the board and at least let them know and make them aware that they may come to us later down and say, listen, the base road is in and this is what we've left. Come down, take a look at it and give us the thumbs up or down, and I figured we'd visit it with Jeff at the
Absolutely,
time.
yep.
So,
I think it's important to get some road agent input here.
so that's what I wanted to give you a heads up on that, but it is all flagged if you guys wanna take a drive through it. Some of the trees down by that critical, foundation that's there on the right side of where the turnaround was gonna be, some of those trees, may not get cut only because they're gonna move the turnaround up. The other thing is I met with, Kurt Rubin, we had talked earlier this year about trying to, rebuild and square away some of the walls in the town pound
Yes,
that the trees have fallen on and they've dragged them off or they've fallen down. And we took a look at it earlier today, there's about a 16-foot section, a 12-foot section, a 4-foot corner. And I noticed in the front, some of the walls kind of dip a little like this. And I asked them to look at using all the stone that have fallen down off the rock to rebuild them, and they're tapered in on the inside and they're square on the outside. I asked them to rebuild them just like they were and give us an estimate on doing that, so we could maybe try and encumber that money out of our budget.
that would be our maintenance line.
Yes. So once we get that,
That's good.
and I told them about 2 weeks, cause I knew we weren't meeting next week, so,
Ruben, is that
yes,
the one
Kurt
that,
Rubin.
I think I've got his email or.
Yeah, what's he call his, CR something scapes?
Okay, that was good news, Dave, thank you.
So those are the two things I worked on this week.
Bob?
No, I did just the one that I gonna bring up to you guys.
Okay, just an update from me, planning board met this week, just for the record. The planning board accepted the 4-lot subdivision of 13. The application's been accepted, so it's undergoing a review process now. It was based, the acceptance was based upon input from the zoning board, some of their decisions, legal counsel, and general discussion among the board members. And I actually changed my position after being educated along the way. I thought it was an interesting process, but we found some shortcomings that were made prior to our tenure on the board by previous boards, going back to 1985. There were some problems made back then, and we're living with them now, we're trying to correct them, and trying to be fair to all the citizens. That's planning board stuff. I'm gonna hold off, we're gonna go into non-public in a moment. Lee, do you have anything?
Just a couple of things. In your packet, you have the important dates from NHMA meeting calendar. You should try to, I highlighted the things that would apply to the selectmen.
Okay.
I'm working on my 3-month calendar that will count us down to town meeting, and I just wanted to double check, if I have my vote, I'm sure we're gonna meet. December 26th, which is the day after Christmas, is a Thursday. January 2nd, which is the day after New Year's Day, is a Thursday. I would hope the selectmen still wanna meet, because it's critical at this point to have every meeting that we can before we get into.
When is it?
The day after Christmas. Christmas is on a Wednesday, Christmas Day, and then the 26th evening, we're gonna meet. Yes,
Really?
yes, we really have to meet. And then January 2nd, you should be all sobered up after New Year's Day, right? To meet for.
January 2nd, I have no problem with. December 26th is a special day.
No, it's the day after Christmas.
That's my birthday.
Oh, too bad.
I think we should take it off too, Mike, and you should buy us steaks.
There you go.
So you know, yeah,
No, yeah, I'm teasing a little bit.
okay.
I want cake though.
Are we good? Okay, I'll remember that. Are we good with meeting those 2 dates? Cause I'm gonna
Yeah, I think
start.
The thing is,
looking
we
at-
can meet, the thing is, we'll just make it an abbreviated agenda. If some stuff can be put off to the following week.
Okay, right now I don't have any budgets scheduled for those 2 dates, but I would,
But
Want-
I like to
want
make
them
it
modified.
specific, business that we can get done to expect that process. I don't wanna be here.
Yeah,
10
and
o'clock
when
at
you
night.
do, and when you do line up your budgets, if,
Yeah.
I mean, if you can hold the December date off, then
okay,
maybe we should, you
all right,
know,
then I'll
and-
revisit
Yeah,
that and
right.
let you
Well,
know how the
Yeah,
schedule's
if somebody can't
working.
meet any other time and we need to fill the hole, then we'll
Right.
do that.
Tentatively, yes, but the thing is, it's to be determined.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that. Christmas
Thank you.
Eve, the town clerk will have special hours, she'll be closing at noon, both on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve,
I think I think all town officers go. What day is that of the week?
at Tuesday, cause
What about transfer station?
they have decided, and Woody happened to be here to be able to talk about it when I was talking to Linda, his workers wanna work to get everything cleaned up so they can have Wednesday and Thursday off. So they're gonna do their best to try to get that done, so they'll give
So
them,
they're working on it.
then no follow-up Thursday for
That's
them.
fine with
Okay,
us.
yeah.
So, and how did you want the rest of the office? The tax collector will be closed, obviously she's got evening hours. Do you want me to just schedule
I would say noon
the
time.
offices to be closed at noon?
Can you get all the payroll done for them?
Yeah,
Just out of curiosity, we close, do we pay the employees? Was it, they,
Yeah, we do.
Sure you do.
that's, I'm making sure.
Do we, can we post it to, Lynn?
Hot topics and maybe on the week of, just let them on the bulletin
On
board.
the bulletin board, just so, and on that door, I think, on that day,
yep, yep.
you know, just so.
And you're okay with my paying the staff that would normally work till 4?
Yes,
Okay,
that's what we're ready to
I know we
discuss.
let them go at 2 other years, or,
yeah,
But noon time is reasonable.
If we're telling them to leave, we have to pay them.
that's
If
correct.
they're saying they wanna go, then, you know.
To me, it's like a snow day.
oh, we'll leave it optional to them, Bob.
I think it'll,
If you go, you don't get paid, if you stay.
we'll let you out at noon and we'll pay you. Okay, I think they'll be glad to hear that. They work hard and,
We should have done 2 o'clock, you get paid, noon,
Dave's new name, Grinch.
okay.
budget year.
The other 2 items I had to bring up were the fact that the memos went out for the department budgets, and then our meeting's been scheduled for Health Trust on Monday, December 2nd at 9 o'clock.
Right, I saw, we
So
saw
we're
that.
good to go.
And make sure the supervisor, make sure everyone knows that the thing is, we should have no upper, transfer station will be only the top one. What day of the week is that?
Woody's aware of it. The training,
No, yeah.
Monday at 9
Oh, so that's right.
a.m.
He's-
Can I make a recommendation that next week we attach a paperwork to each of their paychecks?
That went out today
Perfect.
on their paychecks.
So every employee's gonna know besides the tax
That's
department.
correct, because it
Okay.
does affect the stipends and whatnot, so every employee will have one.
Okay. Police department too, yeah.
Yep.
Did we hear anything back about stipend people at all?
Nothing yet, because I don't think they know, but they will know tomorrow
Perfect.
when they get their check.
And then we don't meet next week, nice. So I'll be signing checks at dark next week.
Well, the thing is, Dave, I know we talked about stipend last week, but my only comment on stipend is, we gotta be careful that, we don't lower the stipend. The stipend, first of all, when we pay the stipend, we save money. If it's too low, they say, oh, heck, I'll just get insurance through the town, and once they make that decision, we lose money.
Yeah,
Well, it's not typical that they would do that, because typically when someone takes that stipend, their spouse has it.
Right, but they're gonna, the thing is, it'd be a kitchen table issue, if they're not saving that much money, they may see what the spouse has to offer. I'm just concerned, we'll have to monitor that this year.
I think
If the spouse can get a stipend from where they work, and it makes a difference that way, they could shift the other way.
I know, but if you look at, they were taking the stipend with the better package, now we've lowered the package too. So I'm sure they're not gonna want it, cause it's a lower package now with a much higher deductible, so.
Yeah,
If they
but
didn't take it when we offered it with the insurance they had
No,
last
But the whole
time.
thing is, the person coming in with the stipend gets in on the 2040. That's the one that everybody has.
yeah, they can do either or, they can do the higher,
Yeah,
the
or they
lower
can go for
deductible, the higher
Yeah.
payroll deduction, point of sale is lower, or point of service, and
Yeah.
then vice
Right,
versa.
but still, the free one, they're,
The only ones that grandfathered in are on that other one, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
unless they wanna move up.
I'd say we watch that carefully, because I don't want it to backfire on us. And so we're spending more money because it flip-flops, we lose all those, because it was Donna Dunn last year who basically brought, why are we spending this money on these? Hey, we're spending to save money,
Yeah.
we're saving big money.
it's over 70 grand that we saved by them going with,
but I also didn't want it just to be grandfathered employees that had to have adjustment on that too,
yep,
you know? I
but,
thought it should've been across the board.
yeah,
Okay, well, the thing is, I'd say we monitor it at this point. Okay, I have nothing else, gentlemen, I'd like to make a motion, that we go into,
Excuse me.
non-public for RSA 91-alpha:2, paragraph C,
it's actually gonna be B, the first one,
B.
because you're looking at